Sindhu Vacha, Titram Pabinebyo, Vaishnavebyo Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. Raise your hand if you had a good day today. You raised two hands. You must have been, wow. What happened? That was so wonderful.
I got enough rest to go.
You are Brahmin, honest man. Hare Krishna. What we're going to do first is what? Who remembers from yesterday what we're going to? Raise your hand, though. Everyone raise your hand. Yes, you raised your hand first with great enthusiasm.
So we are going to form a small group and discuss about the Prabhupada.
Yes, but before we do that, we're going to hear what Prabhupada said.
Yeah.
So this is part of a lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave in Mayapur in 1976. So we could see it up here and we can hear with our ears. And then after, we shall discuss. What do you think of this plan? What do you think? Yeah. What do you think of this plan? Oh, it's supposed to, Prabhupada first says, so. You ready? Now listen very carefully. Will you listen carefully also? Okay. Let me see who I can find. Oh, Prabhu, don't put your back to the deity still. What? You have water there? You know, there's a little secret that you can do to get rid of your hiccups. Do you know what it is? No. Okay, but if I tell everyone, it won't be a secret anymore. Okay, now we're going to do a scientific experiment. Everyone go like this. No, not you. I have to tell you. I have to come up here. And usually when you drink water out of a cup, you drink it out of the front of the cup like this, right? Drink it out of the back of the cup. Yeah, so just do it, even though it sounds so funny, even though you'll spill some. Okay, go and do it and we'll see if it works. You didn't hear anything. Go. No, you can't use that. You have to get a cup. And if it works, then I'll reveal it to you. But it will work. But do you understand, brother? Okay. Okay. You ready to listen?
Yeah.
Yes. Will you listen also? Yes. Let's see who else. I think there's an epidemic of hiccups going on. Maybe Hiccupasura has entered. Okay, go.
So, in the previous verse, we understood that Lord Brahma executed severe austerity for hundreds of years just to become purified. Tibra tapasa parisuddha bhava situation or nature, bhava, nature also. So we have a bhava, nature at the present moment, which is not real bhava. We have acquired this bhava on account of long years material association. But this bhava can be changed. That is spiritual. Sri Rupa Goswami also says bhava, and another place in Bhagavad Gita it is said Buddha bhava samannita bhava. So at the present moment we have got a bhava, I am this, I am that, I belong to this family, I belong to this nation. Bhava is ecstasy, and everyone is overwhelmed with such kind of ecstasy. The politicians, they think that we are simply wasting time in chanting and dancing. They have no sense how to improve the position of the country. They do not like, because they are in different bhav. But we are trying to change that bhav. The bhava must be there. The whole Krishna consciousness movement is to purify the bhava. Bhava, that is stated here. Parishuddha bhava. We are not negativating everything. We are simply changing from material bhava to spiritual bhava. That's here is a big building, but there are many other hundreds and thousands of big buildings in this district or in this country. But here the bhava is changed. The bhava is changed. In your country there are many big skyscraper buildings. In comparison to those buildings, there is nothing. But still, you have come spending thousands of dollars here to change the bhava. That is required. Otherwise, the American boys and others, you have no business to come here to see this big building. No. To change the bhava. That requires. That is very important thing. So, sarvopati vinirmuktam tat paraktena nirmalam rishikena rishikesam sevanam bhaktirichyati. Rishikesha sevanam. That bhava is bhakti means to change the bhava. At the present moment, we are in a different bhava. It has to be cleansed, parishuddha bhava, prakishta rupena, or parishuddha, clarified, cleansed bhava. We have nothing to reject. Simply, we have to change the bhava. Buddha bhava samannita. Aham sarvasya prabhava matta sarvam pravartate iti matya bhajanti mam buddha bhava samannita. Buddha, those who are intelligent, Buddha. Bodha means intelligence, knowledge. And Buddha, those who have got knowledge. So this is knowledge. Brahma, Lord Brahma began austerity to change the bhava. He is the first created living being. How much great he is, but because he came into this material world, he is coming from Vishnu, Atmajoni. Not only Brahma, every one of us, we are coming from Vishnu. Every one of us, like the small sparks of fire, we are coming from the big fire. That's the fact. But as soon as we come to this material world, that quality, fiery quality, extinguishes. Therefore we have to revive the fiery quality, change of bhava, parishuddha bhava.
Oh, okay, go into small groups of 3 or 4 or 5 or something and discuss what you heard. Quickly. What struck you? Yeah, keep discussing this. What seemed important to you? What inspires you? What you remember? What you heard? Share your thoughts, share your realization. Did you hear something different that you didn't hear yesterday, if you heard yesterday? Just another few minutes, 2 minutes. Okay. I have a question. In one sentence, not two, and not a long sentence, what is the relevance of the lecture? Why did I include this segment of the lecture in this class on Akrura's journey to Vrindavan? Yes, oh, you raised your hand for one sentence.
In our journey of spirituality, we have to change our heart. We have to purify our heart.
Yes. Church bells, that's interesting. Okay. You were enthusiastic also.
Same that. See, we have to change the behind the.
You can't say both. You can't say same as his and then say the same thing. I mean, you can do that because you were going to do that, but okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes. Okay. Less.
Akrura is teaching us how we have to prepare our mind to enter into the Dham, how we have to change our bhava or consciousness. So this lecture is apt in the sense Prabhupada is helping us understand how we have to change our material bhava to spiritual bhava.
Yes. And that is why we come to a temple, to a holy place, to associate. That is the purpose of our life. Because if we go through life with materialistic bhavas and materialistic dreams, that if only I had this, then I would be happy. If only I would have done this, then I would have been happy. If only I had achieved this or knew that or learned this, then I would be happy. That will cause us to wander in the material world, birth after birth after birth, as discussed in Bhagavad Gita chapter 15. But what Prabhupada wants to tell us, what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to tell us, what Krishna Veda Vyas wants to tell us, Sukadev Goswami, they want to tell us that life has a purpose, and that purpose is to change our bhava, or learn how to carry the mood or the nature, which is our original nature of love for Krishna. So how to do that? So one thought we may have is I have to give up everything. And if we do give up everything with perfect sincerity and are very determined, then our bhava will change. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to tell a story about a marriage party. You know that story? You want to tell it? I'll tell it because I have a microphone. But if I forget something, you can correct me. No problem. But there was a marriage party, and they got in the boat, and they told the boatman to row all night long, and then they'd arrive in the village. This was the groom's party or something like that. Arrive in the village by the next morning. So they all went to sleep, and the boatman rowed and rowed and rowed. And then when the sun rose and they expected to be in the new village, they were surprised to find that they were in exactly the same place. So they chastised the boatman, thinking that they went to sleep and he also went to sleep, but the boatman said, no, I worked hard. I was rowing and rowing and rowing. And then they discovered that although he had worked very hard, he had not raised the anchor. In other words, he kept certain things in place that caused him not to move at all. even though he worked so hard. But his consciousness did not shift at all. I mean, the boat did not shift at all. And this example is there's a tendency for to not change our bhava as we perform devotional service. And that's why Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told that story. And he was explaining to the devotees that we have to pull up the anchor of our material desires. Now, that's not exactly what Akrura is going to do here by his exemplary way to go to Vrindavan. But he's going to show the other side. The other side, or one side, is that we pull up the anchor of our material desires, and on the other side, we develop very strongly our desires to go to Krishna. Now, at the very end of this pastime, really, or near the end of this pastime, the secret, there's so many secrets will be revealed. The whole process basically is going to be mapped out in front of us, but a secret is going to be revealed. And unless some of you are expert in mind reading, you won't be able to guess what that secret is unless you've really read this already. Or you can, as I said, or you've read my mind, either one. But we will get to that at the end. And I don't know how far we will get, but we will somehow or another, we will speed through and get to the end before we end tomorrow. So the first point, Akrura, he mounted his chariot. This is the first verse. He set off for the cowherd village. Payayal Nanda Gokulam, Gachan Pati Mahabaho Bhagavati Ambujekshane. He was remembering, he was thinking that he was going to see that Supreme Lord who had all power, and he also had lotus eyes. So he was seeing two aspects of the Lord. So as he traveled on the road, the great soul Akrura felt tremendous devotion for the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead. And thus he began to consider as follows. From the 3rd verse to the 23rd verse, his considerations, his thoughts are going to be described one by one. So the first one is he thought, what pious deeds have I done? What severe austerities have I undergone? What worship performed or charity given, so that today I will see Lord Keshava? So he was going on the road. He was going to see Krishna. He was going to see Lord Keshava. And he was thinking of his fortune. What have I have done? How is it possible that myself, and more of his reasoning will be explained. What have I done? What piety have I done? Was it charity? Was it austerities? What worship did I perform? If it was worship, I must have worshipped the Supreme Lord or one of the Lord's devotees. If I've given in charity, it couldn't have been ordinary charity, because ordinary charity to an ordinary person brings ordinary results. But this, what's going to happen to me today, I'm going to see that Lord, is not ordinary. It is extraordinary and most rare. So what is it that I've done? I'm so fortunate, even though I am so, what word? I'm so fortunate, even though I am so fallen, unworthy. So here is the foundational consciousness, and this and the next verse, in verse 3 and 4, the same point is going to be made. This is the foundational consciousness to move forward to Vrindavan, on pilgrimage, to the temple, or to Goloka Vrindavan in our lives. There has to be humility. And humility is honesty, practically speaking. Because we are insignificant. We're insignificant. We cheat. We tend to. We're hip. I shouldn't really. I'm not speaking about. But there's such a tendency towards insincerity and not real focus of desire. That life has one purpose and one purpose alone. And I'm going to love Krishna. I'm going to serve Krishna. But rather we perform improper activities. We act in such a way that shows that we have other interests than service to Krishna, subtle and gross. So when one becomes conscious of that, of his own imperfections, but doesn't all day long think about how imperfect I am, because that's not humility. Just to think of how bad I am and how fault I am, that's not humility. That's some kind of mental disease. And it's not humility, because who are you thinking about all day long? You're just thinking about yourself. Humility means you touch your insignificance, and you take shelter of Krishna very quickly. Oh, Krishna, and that's going to be the verse after the next verse. Let me just put myself on the right page. It's interesting. Hiccups are so interesting because why do we hiccup? Why does it happen?
The diaphragm was faster between the lungs and the...
Why? Are you hiccuping on purpose? That's the proof. Because everyone's looking at you, and you don't want everyone to just look at you. And every time you hiccup, everyone looks. But this happens. So can we be in control? Actually, we can't even control our own hiccuping when it happens. We can't control the blinking of our eyes. We can't control our heartbeats. We can't control our digestion. We think we're in control. We really do think we're in control. I think that I am moving my hand. What's this? Hand, first of all, thumb, move up. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Fingers spread. Wow, I'm so wonderful. Hand rise into the air. Just Ishwaraham, humble. But in 1 second, Krishna can take everything away. We actually should be humble, especially if we hiccup. So in his humility, Akrura is thinking that how is it that I, who it'll come out later, a servant of Kamsa, am able to get the greatest fortune? And that's the situation of a devotee. He sees not how terrible, not only how terrible he is or something like that, but he sees how fortunate he is. Because either today or tomorrow, and today we can see the Lord's, we can see a great devotee of the Lord, or tomorrow we'll be in Vrindavan, in this world, or in a few days more, or a few lifetimes, short lifetimes, we'll be with Krishna in the spiritual world. How is that possible, considering who I am? But it's true. So Akrura was on his path, and we are on the path to Vrindavan also. So in the 4th verse, he says, since I am a materialistic person, absorbed simply in sense gratification. I think it is as difficult for me, absorbed in material consciousness, to have gotten this opportunity to see He whose fame destroys samsara. It would be as I have this opportunity, and it's so difficult to see the Lord. It is it's so rare that it is just as rare for a person who is born a Sudra to allow to recite the Vedic mantras. It is so rare. So this brings up some cultural points of the Vedic culture, that one has to be of higher birth, of higher consciousness to actually be able to study the Vedas, because if one isn't in the right consciousness, if one doesn't have the right purity of consciousness, if one doesn't have the right humility and intelligence when studying, one will misunderstand, or one will use the knowledge that he gets for his own selfish purposes. So therefore, one had to be quite qualified to be allowed to hear and study the Vedic literatures. So it is the rarity of the fact that he's going to see Krishna so soon that's astounding him. To the Sanatana Goswami, and there he is, knowing his own faults. So Sanatana Goswami says, he elaborates, it is rare to see the Supreme Lord. He is glorified. Krishna is all attractive, most attractive. Or he is the person who destroys samsara. I consider seeing him so rare because I am materialistic. I am selfish. As one devotee in Vrindavan, an old Bengali gentleman used to say, I am the worst kind of fish. I'm a selfish. Selfish means that I have material consciousness and I imagine myself as the center and so important, and imagine that when I ride down the road in Bengaluru, what's the proper pronunciation? Yeah, that all the cars should move out of the way when I'm on the road, and if they don't, I get upset, or I become tolerant. So I just learn that the lesson that Krishna wants to teach us through all this is humility. But yet he sees his fortune. But it's based, the first step is meditating, is I don't deserve this. I don't deserve this. But then in the 5th verse, and why doesn't he deserve it? Because he recognizes that he has materialistic consciousness. What does materialistic consciousness mean to you? Raise your hand. Think about this. What does it mean to be materialistic? Yes.
Body.
Huh?
And the body.
My body,
Me and mine.
me and mine. This is the center.
Want to enjoy.
I want to enjoy. What else?
Exploit Krishna.
I exploit Krishna. I exploit Krishna's energy because I am the center. What's important is me and mine. Independent. I look at the material energy and think of it as independent of Krishna. Instead of using it in Krishna's service, I want to use it for my own pleasures. And even if I want to use it in Krishna's service, at least I should get some percentage. Something should come to me, at least a little fame, at least. And so everyone could say to me, oh, look at what a nice devotee I am. And he uses everything in Krishna's service. And then I'd be able to say, no, no, no. So that humility is the basis. And nowadays people talk about gratitude and think of how fortunate I am because I am materialistic, and yet I'm undeserving. But yet I have it. Or I'm on the path. I've been given this by some fortune that I don't understand. So on one side, it takes humility But on the other side, it takes a sincere and accurate appreciation of what Krishna consciousness actually is, and how rare it actually is, and how sweet our relationship with. Because if we don't have those realizations, then we won't really feel the gratitude and feel the humility and see the contrast between the greatness of the gift that we're getting and the lack of qualification that I personally have. What's the word that people use nowadays? I can't think of the word, an English word, that everyone is entitled. We feel we're entitled to everything. Huh? No, the word was entitled. That was the one I meant. I found it. I lost it and then I found it again. Yeah, entitled means you think, I deserve this. And it's the opposite of humility. So next, does that mean we should just walk around and I don't deserve anything? I don't deserve. Here's some prasad. Oh, no, I don't deserve prasad. But in the 5th verse, the next step that naturally follows humility is expressed by Akrura. Because what's the opposite of humility? Pride. Okay. And what does pride mean? Faith in self and one's own abilities. So as long as one thinks, yes, I will go and see Krishna because I am so this, I am so that, then one won't be allowed, won't be qualified to get the next step that Akrura mentions and what his actual hope is. Because as long as our hope and trust is in our own ability, which means our own intelligence, our own influence, our own beauty or power or wealth, then we're limited by our own wealth or beauty or influence or intelligence. And whatever wealth or intelligence or beauty or we have, it is insufficient. It is insufficient to get to Krishna because he is so great. He is transcendental. So at some point, in the midst of him thinking himself so unqualified in the 5th text, he says, enough of these thoughts, of such thoughts. After all, even a fallen soul like me can have the chance to behold the infallible Supreme Lord. For one of the conditioned souls being swept along in the river of time may sometimes reach the shore, meaning the Lord, may reach the Lord. So it can happen that even though I am so unqualified, thinks Akrura, but it can happen. And what is the cause of such a thing happening? Prabhupada says in his Krishna book, after thinking humbly, Prabhupada says, but then Akrura began to think, by the grace of Krishna, everything is possible. Akrura thus thought that if Krishna willed, if Krishna desired, if Krishna gave me his mercy, Akrura, would be able to see him. The humility gives birth to making one, it's like putting in your application for Krishna's mercy. If one is proud, on the other hand, and thinks I can do it myself, then why will Krishna bother giving us mercy? Well, then do it yourself. Go ahead. Please, we wish you all luck. We wish you the best. But if one is calling out to Krishna for help, I'm not qualified, I'm weak. But your mercy is powerful, so powerful that it accomplishes anything. It can even bring a soul like me to your lotus feet. And when Krishna hears the plea of a devotee like that, who consistently turns to him, then naturally, being Krishna and having Krishna's qualities, his heart softens. And somehow or another, he gives mercy. I've seen this so many times that sometimes I'll think that that no one hears my prayers. But actually, Krishna does hear my prayers. But he hears it the same way, just like, any of you ever walked in Loy Bazaar in Vrindavan? And then one of the shopkeepers, you hear, Hari Bol Prabhu, come. So he's saying Hari Bol or Hari Krishna, but what is he thinking? He's thinking, please deposit your money here. So we can hear that. Krishna knows, also can hear the quality of our prayers and our thinking and our sincerity. So I've seen many times that when it appears to me that my prayers aren't being heard or answered, it's because of my lack of sincerity. I don't really mean it. I'm sort of testing to see if it works. But if one really sincerely Tavasmi Chayasate prays even just once, Sakrideva Papanas Tvam Tavasmi, I am yours, just once. And Krishna, the Damni Tad Vritamamada, Krishna, his vrat is that he will give that devotee fearlessness. He will care for him. So Sanatana Goswami talks about this verse also. Akrura thinks that he is devoid of sadhana for seeing the Lord. He hasn't done the practices, doesn't have that sincere greed and desire, and he feels himself completely unqualified. But the Lord never deviates from his glorious quality like mercy in order to respond to a person's feeble worship. He will see the Lord because of the Lord's great quality. And the great quality that he is full confidence in is that Krishna is merciful and protects those who fully depend on him and call out to him. So again, what we're doing is tracing, or I was thinking of it as mapping, the path of Akrura's thoughts so that we can learn how to follow that same path. And this, we've just put one or two, or we could say, since there's 23 verses or 19 verses of his, 21 verses of his thought, we've just taken the step of 3. What is going to be the next thing one does? When one feels humbly and then feels himself dependent on the Lord's mercy, then the next step is text 6. He says, Akrura says, today, all my sinful reactions, because will be eradicated. Because my sinful reactions, they're all sitting there in my mind and consciousness. And because of that, they've given birth to desires, material desires. And what's bad about material desires? That that we have to stay in the material world to try and fulfill them. And not only that, but each one that you have gives birth to so many more because they don't truly satisfy. It's like in science, the scientists have a big question that they're trying to solve. And when they solve that question, it's like opening a door. But what's behind the door isn't truth. It's 10 more doors that they don't have an answer to those questions. And then they walk through one of those and they put all their intelligence and money and everything into solving one of those doors. And then there's 10 behind that, and they haven't even walked through the other 9 doors over there. And there's 10 over there, and then each one or 20 or 30. That's what our material desires are like. It's not like if we get what we want that they become satisfied. Like when you pour the ghee on the fire, it's not like the fire says, thank you, that's enough, I've had enough. But rather it just grows and demands more. And the more we give it, the more it demands. What are you thinking right now? After hearing me say that?
I'm thinking desiring goes long and long and long. When once fulfilled, it goes so very long. Just like the example of a door, elaborating in different direction and one entering and another 20 doors, 30 doors.
What are you thinking? Sorry for doing this to you, but yeah, what are you thinking right this moment? Huh? Nothing. That's pretty good. I don't know how to do that. My mind is always jumping from here to there. What are you thinking? No, not me, you.
It's similar thing that based on like the desires, like if I'm
So what was this what you were thinking? You were thinking in such a theoretical way.
means I was thinking, for example, like it happened to me, when something is fulfilled, another things come up that now this has been this.
Yeah. And everyone's afraid. What happens if he calls on me? I have to figure out something really quickly. So anyway, what he's going to do now is the next step. Today, all my sinful reactions have been eradicated. Means all my material desires have been removed. And my birth has become worthwhile because this is the, and we think, or materialistic people think that the purpose of my life is to accumulate, to fulfill my material desires and get more, or at least sufficient. But he's saying the removal of those desires has made my birth worthwhile. That is human life. Why? Since I will offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, which mystic yogis meditate upon. The yogis perform so much austerity and have to control all their senses and their mind and their bodies, and then go dharan, dhyan, samadhi, and then the result of that intense detachment and austere practices that they can, with a pure and peaceful mind, fully meditate upon the Lord's lotus feet. And then, yeah. But he says, those same lotus feet, I will see today with my eyes, not even in meditation. Prabhupada explains this in his Krishna book. Akrura considered himself most fortunate because he was going to see Krishna, whom great mystic yogis desire to see. He was confident that on that day, all the sinful reactions of his past life would be finished and his fortunate human form of life would be successful because he was going to see Krishna. Srila Jiva Goswami comments, he speaks with pride and certainty because he's confident of Krishna's mercy. He has confidence not in his own power, but in Krishna's mercy. All his obstacles will be destroyed by seeing the Lord, because by the Lord's appearing and by the strength of his mercy, Srila Jiva Goswami says, he will directly offer respects to the lotus feet of the Lord. In other words, this in and of itself, to offer obeisances to the Lord or his great devotees' feet, is an end in of itself. It's a humbling of the soul. It is a surrender of the soul. But we can, of course, do it completely mechanically without thinking, without having any consciousness. We can just, we can come in, and what do you do when you come in the temple? You pay down, you bow down, and then you get up, and then you offer, if you can, you offer a flower. We can do it with no consciousness. But here he's saying, I'm offering myself. I'm humble. I'm so fortunate. I depend on Krishna's mercy. And now I'm going to offer my obeisances. I'm having that great fortune of offering my obeisances to the lotus feet of the Lord. He will directly offer respects to the lotus feet of the Lord, although even the yogis can just meditate on those feet without directly seeing them. He's thinking, I'm going to directly see them. And now we can understand why Sri Vigraha, the deity form, is so merciful that he's Krishna's mercy. He descends into this world because we who don't have spiritual vision can have the same facility as a great devotee like Akrura, who had so much devotion. He could actually see the Lord, and he will see the Lord, and he will drive the chariot of the Lord. But we can see the Lord in the form of his Vigraha, his deity form, by the mercy of the Lord. And you can, if your consciousness is correct, or depending upon how correct your consciousness is, when you see the deity, you can enter into the world of the deity. And when you serve the deity, when you in the right consciousness, the deity will reveal his beauty, his mercy, the Dham. So how fortunate is that? I mean, there's so many stories one could tell of, and we probably have our own personal, private stories of going in front of the deities and just being absorbed. And then we walk out, and we think that absorption in the form of the deity is ours, but it is mercy. Because as soon as we walk out and we don't take that internal meditation with us, then we lose that sweetness, and we lose the ability to be in the spiritual world, even though we're not quite qualified. And we walk out the temple door, and then, or even when there's a class, and everyone's very serious and listening and yes, it's true, spirit is alive. And then they hear in the background, sorry, Rav, and then immediately not honoring prasadam, but not thinking this is Krishna's mercy, the deity with Krishna's mercy, the Bhagavatam is Krishna's mercy. But here, he's explaining, Akrura is explaining that when I offer myself, my obeisances to the lotus feet of Krishna, my life, my sinful reaction will be removed. And my life is actually successful. So that's the next step that he explains. So what was the first step? Yes, one. I'll raise your hand, so I'll call on you one by one. Matajis can also raise your hand. I'll call on you. What was the first step? Yes. Second step.
Dependence on Lord.
And then an offering of oneself, obeisances. And now he's going to say something that appears very peculiar in one sense. Indeed, this is text 7. Today, Kamsa has shown me extreme mercy by sending me to see the lotus feet of he who takes away all inauspiciousness, of he who has now appeared in this world. Simply by the effulgence of his toenail, many souls in the past have transcended the insurmountable darkness of material existence and attained the Lord. Darkness, I mean, there's so many things we could speak about, but the insurmountable darkness of material existence. What does that mean? Raise your hand. What does that mean to you, that sentence? Yes, thank you.
Endless darkness.
Endless, that you, yes. Anyone else have any thoughts? Yes.
Not being able to see Krishna or not being able to see things in relation to Krishna.
Not being able to see reality. Darkness means ignorance. Both of what you said, 100% correct. Insurmountable, that you try to see reality, but you can't. You just see illusion, Maya Dharma. You just see Maya's playing. But yet, he says, just by seeing the Lord's lotus feet, the effulgence of his toenails, so many souls in the past have transcended, gone beyond the darkness of material existence and attained the Lord. Because we have to go beyond the darkness of material existence to attain the Lord. The Lord is light. You can't be in darkness and light at the same time, although we tend to try our best to hold on to our material desires and want to be Krishna conscious at the same time. But what's extraordinary about this verse, or one of the extraordinary things, is that he's seeing, his vision is that the mercy to be able to see the irony, the mercy to be able to see the lotus feet of Krishna, the opportunity of all people, who's giving me the opportunity of all people, the most unlikely person is this enemy of Krishna, Kamsa. And he is the one that this mercy is coming through. Srila Jiva Goswami comments, though Kamsa is most cruel, he has shown mercy to me. It would be impossible for Kamsa to show mercy without the mercy of the Lord. What does that mean? This is Srila Jiva Goswami's comment. It would be impossible for Kamsa to show me mercy without the mercy of the Lord. Raise your hand if you'd like to comment on that, or if you could say something. Yes, Prabhu.
When we say Kali's careless thing, in that case, he thanks stepmother that because of her I'm able to go to, I'm able to see Naradi as well as Lord. Here in this case also, the great you would give credit to bad people. So I understand that, but want to understand your view on it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Loudly, with power.
Without the peace of Krishna, not in a deed. So Krishna's desire was there that through Kamsa, Akrura will lead.
Yes. Yes, I'd like to say it in a little bit of a different way, but yeah. But how interesting it is. Go ahead, Paul.
Pure devotees recognize various sources from where Lord's mercy comes.
Yeah. That Krishna can use any situation, any person, regardless of the quality of that person, or the quality of that situation, he can use that to give you, me, mercy. But to see Krishna's mercy in every situation, regardless of how difficult it is, takes very pure vision. Ateno kumpam, kustamiktamano, bhumvine bhapma kipava bhakam, vidbhagava pulam vadama namaste, jivatayo. Okay, what did I just say? Yes, you didn't raise your hand, but I knew you know the answer.
That whatever happens in our life, like we are able to see that as mercy of the Lord, and we do devotional service, considering that it is extreme mercy of Lord to give me opportunity to render a devotional service.
That every opportunity, every circumstance we're in has within it the ability to give us the mercy of Krishna. That type of vision is amazing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, though I have been sent to do things unfavorable to the Lord, by Kamsa, for me, this has become very favorable. Amazingly, though Kamsa is a rascal, today he has been merciful to me because he has sent me to Krishna. So sometimes something terrible happens to us and our heart breaks and our mood becomes so negative, and sometimes we take shelter of something that's not Krishna, but other times we take shelter of Krishna. We run to Krishna. We run to Krishna and fall at his feet and say, Krishna, unless you help me or unless you protect me, what hope do I have? So there's this choice in the circumstances of our life to turn to Krishna or not turn to Krishna, to see the opportunity that Krishna is giving us or to miss it. The BBT purport says, Akrura noted how ironic it was that the envious demonic Kamsa had given him an extraordinary blessing by sending him to see the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. So it is a prayer. It is a prayer. Let me turn to Krishna in every circumstance, difficult as that circumstance. What are you thinking right now? Huh? Yeah. You used to be. Huh? Huh? But you used to be. And so was I. At one time I was a little boy. And I saw that with like Dhruva Maharaj. You pointed out about Dhruva Maharaj when he was leaving this world. Does anyone remember how he got on his flower Biman airplane and went to the, what does it say?
His head on the head, his feet on the head of death.
What does that mean? He stepped upon the death. He put his feet on the head of death to board the plane that would take him to Vaikuntha. What does that mean?
Conquered death.
Yeah, he conquered death. He used the opportunity of dying, which is the most fearful of opportunities, of circumstances. No one looks forward to that circumstance, but he used it as like when you, if there's something, if you have to climb to a high place, you put your foot on something and use it as a step to get to that higher place. So Dhruva used death to ascend to the spiritual world. So one could say that death gave him an extraordinary blessing. So will we be able to use the difficult circumstances in our lives as and see them as blessings and turn to Krishna and use them somehow to get closer to Krishna? That is a prayer, that we will have that strength, we will have that purity, we will have the association that pushes us and helps us go in that direction. Does anyone have any questions about this particular point? Yes, Paul.
Any person who is going through a difficult situation in life, like a Krishna or something. So,
A little louder. A person who's going through a difficult situation.
just that's it. Like going through depression or some difficult situation, how can you send it? So, just want to hear from you.
But if the person is fully pure, anything can be used. But if he's not that strong, that difficult circumstance will overwhelm him. So it's so helpful to have devotee association to help us in difficult circumstances. And that's something that a community of devotees should really, really do, is help each other in difficult circumstances. You notice that children have so much energy? Did you notice? And they also have such loud voices. Have you noticed that? Such powerful voices. Yeah.
Okay, question.
Yes, Paul.
From Akrura's point of view, he is saying that Kamsa has shown extreme mercy. Kamsa has shown extreme mercy on me. But on the other hand, he also sees Kamsa has the intention of killing Krishna, and Kamsa is showing extreme mercy on me. As a devotee of Krishna, how to digest this? That somebody is planning to kill Krishna, even though he can't, and then I'm showering praise on the person just because of whom I'm meeting Krishna.
It's just acknowledging that Krishna is using this person to give me an opportunity to come to him. So it's not foolishly thinking this person is merciful. It's thinking that Krishna is so amazing that he's using the most unlikely person, the cruelest person, the most evil person to give me mercy. How kind Krishna is, how wonderful Krishna is. And okay, thank you, Kamsa. Yeah, I guess let me finish over here. Is that okay? Prabhu? Is that okay? How amazing that Krishna can use any circumstance. If we can have that vision. But it's easier to tell others Krishna's mercy, Prabhu, than when it's happening to me.
Since we are practicing devotees, we can understand every situation is Krishna's mercy. So,
Okay, say that again.
Since we are practicing devotees, we can understand every circumstance happening in our life is mercy of the Lord. But
Intellectually, we can understand, you're saying. Theoretically, yes.
someone, our near and dear ones or neighbors or someone who are facing the same, how can we convince them because they are not in a state to understand it?
Your question has several points. When it's a light difficulty, it's easy for us practicing devotees to see it as Krishna's mercy. But when it's actually a very heavy difficulty, even though we are sitting here right now saying we can't see it as Krishna's mercy, we also pray that we won't be tested so heavily at the same time. I mean, the material energy, it can be very, very, very heavy. There's so many examples. So that's one point. So I would say first point is that how can we convince ourselves that in a very difficult circumstance that somehow or another there's some kindness of Krishna behind it, even though I may not be able to see it. And then how can we convince others who have even less faith in ourselves? Very often we can't, but at least we can be with them. And we can pray to Krishna for them if we have a sincere relationship with them. Because a devotee doesn't like to see anyone suffer. What do you think of my answer? Huh?
Pray for them.
But we shouldn't preach to them. Like when someone's in a very difficult position like that, very often it's not the right time to preach to them because they're more in an emotional mood. Because you talk philosophy to them and they all say in their minds, go away quickly. So we help as much as we practically can and can pray for them. And then later on, maybe we can tell them something, but generally speaking, not at the time when the great difficulty is confronting them. What do you think? Yes, I noticed.
Supposing the Prabhupada lecture was saying that Buddha powers and the power needs to change. Now, the power, right? What happens is that throughout the day we are in so many situations, work, so much stress, and then when we come home, then I'm stressed. Stress is always changing. So how to change that? How does that happen? Or how to keep that power of consciousness is my question.
Akrura is trying to answer that we should become humble. We should see Krishna's mercy, know that we need Krishna's mercy. We should offer obeisances to his lotus feet. We should see, and this verse was describing how even in the most unlikely circumstance, Krishna's mercy can come through. So this question How can I go from a situation where I'm materially absorbed most of the day to a more pure situation where I'm absorbed in thoughts of Krishna and deeper Krishna consciousness? So there's many ways I could answer that question. I could say, well, you have to take responsibility for your life. What are you going to do about that fact that you're absorbed most of the day in material consciousness? What are you going to do about that? It's okay. Another way to answer it is that's a whole process. And that's why you're here now, to come to the temple. Because when you're here right now, hearing some Krishna Katha, some explanations, and seeing Prabhupada right in front of you, you're not seeing the deities behind you, because if you would just turn a little bit that way, but then keep turning that way a little bit so you don't have your back. Yes, very intelligent. This is the process. Our whole process is turning, not keeping our back to Krishna. That's our process. Krishna bole se jeevan adya bahimukh. So, how long have you been chanting yourself?
15 years.
Okay. And when you first started chanting, were you very aware of the issue that you're talking about now?
Little bit aware.
Are you more aware of it now? Okay. So it takes its time sometimes. And do you want to have your be in consciousness where you forget Krishna most of the day? Okay. You don't want to be in that consciousness. And it's been 15 years. So what will you do?
Try that.
Yeah. Well, one thing, strong morning program, strong sadhana, that will help. Study the books, that will help. Associate with devotees, that will help. And also, is there any way you can use your material circumstance, and this comes up later, in such a way, is there any way you can view and use your material circumstance in such a way that it's not separate from your life as a devotee? Do you understand that statement? Is there any way, like Arjuna was on a battlefield, and somehow, because he understood that it was Krishna's order that he fight. So while he was fighting, it was his surrender to Krishna. Is there some way that you can use or view your material circumstances in Krishna's service? And you as a servant of Krishna who's doing this? That's something for you to meditate upon. Is there some way that during the day, how many hours a day does your boss enslave you?
8 hours.
8 hours. So is there some way that at least for 5 minutes, 2 minutes in each of those 8 hours, I can think about Krishna and pray that I could serve him? Is there some way that you see that I can change the difficult circumstance that I'm in and make it better, make it more Krishna conscious? So this is that kind of a question, that kind of sincere question. It's difficult to ask a person like me who's, I mean, I just given you an answer, but it's from a position of not being in that circumstance. So it's easy to give someone advice to what to do when they're not in the experiencing the difficulties that you're doing it. But do you know any devotees who have a similar issue than you do? and that you could discuss it with them. And and it's not only you who have that, but Matajis have, they have their, their works, their different things to do. And I have my own issues of things that distract me and make me forget Krishna. We're all in different circumstances, but if you can find devotees to discuss this particular very good question, a very real question with, and get some practical answers from people who are in a similar circumstance to you and sharing the problem on the same level that you're having to deal with it, then maybe you can help each other. And then you can try something and then does your cruel boss give you any free time during those 8 hours, or does he unshackle you?
I mean, I get at least the lunchtime.
Yeah. So that's an opulence. But he doesn't starve you and feed you with a stick. Yeah. Cruel Kamsa. Does anyone else find themselves in a similar circumstance? Raise your hand, either in the student life or working life, so you're not alone. Do you find yourself like that sometime during the day? You forget Krishna also? When you have exams coming up, do you forget Krishna? For that?
He's saying all the time.
Especially when a good cricket match is on, I forget Krishna immediately. Anyway, that's some answer anyway.
I do.
Hare Krishna. Is student life hard? Yeah. Yeah. Situation, different times, different degrees of difficulty. Okay. Can we just take a few minutes and go into small groups and just discuss for a few minutes what we spoke about today, what we heard of Akrura's path? Okay. And also your question. You can just, maybe some of the devotees you're discussing with. Did anything help with the hiccups? The water didn't help? Did you actually do what I said? Oh, you're supposed to drink with this much water. Oh, it's still there. Okay. Put this much water, empty out half, and drink from this side. And some of it will spill. But drink from that side of the cup instead of, because naturally you drink from this side, right? But drink from that side of the cup. Even though from now you don't know how to do it, right? But try. But get rid of half the water, or keep it like that. I would say if you get rid of some of the water and do it. How was your day today? How was your day today? You were a bit lazy today? In what sense? Yes. How was your day? You said you were a little lazy today? In what sense? In, in what way were you lazy?
Chanting also was not good attentive.
Did you do it? Excuse me. Yeah, yeah. But turn it, put your head back, figure out how to do it. No, yeah, try. We're performing a scientific experiment right now. I should try it myself just to make sure. I can't do it now because it's gonna look too funny when the water comes down my.
It's very hard.
Okay. Try it again. Put your head back a little. Just try it. Okay. Yeah, try it. No, put this. Yeah, that's right. Just do it. Put your head back. See, it's funny. Okay. Maybe that's enough. You guys still have the hiccups? You have the hiccups still?
Also, we may say so many things, but Krishna knows that intention behind the prayer.
Well, the real issue is to become sincere, to have, in other words, to have the right bhava when we do our service, when we perform in our life? So it's an interesting question. We perform devotional service. We do so many things. So I'll ask you a question, but but it's not one that you raise your hand and answer. What do you want as a result of your devotional service? What do you want? No, I said I'm not going to. I love Krishna. But what do you want? And then the follow-up question, think about it. What do you want? Why do you do this? And then the follow-up question is, what do you really want? Okay, well, and now Krishna knows what you really want. And I always imagine it's that when I say, "Oh, Krishna, I only really want to love and serve you," then I imagine Krishna saying, "Oh, really? Let's see." Okay. Good night. Had a good